Hey folks, we're live, and first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining me in my live streams yesterday, and we're going to do more of those with Mr. Dolich and talking about all the other sports business related stuff. But we have something that is overarchingly important, and that has to do with the Oakland Unified School District. And this gentleman that's on here with me was kind enough to text me and say, "Hey, look, can I go on? I have something I want to drop." Uh, and he, of course, is my friend Mike Hutchinson, Oakland Unified School District Board Member, District 4, uh, longtime Raider fan. And so we will do something about that later. But all kidding aside, folks, I'm bringing some levity to it to just prep you for what you're about to hear. All right, Mike, go ahead.
No, thank you, and thank you, Zenny, for having me on. This is not where I expected the school district or myself to be as we're coming to the very end of our school board year here in June, and we have a serious crisis that's now developed. And one of the reasons why people still haven't really heard more about it is because it just dropped literally out of the blue about 3 months ago. And it's really occurred from this school board in a series of closed session meetings. And so to take a little bit, half a step back, when we started our 24-25 school year, at the start of this school year, we were coming off a very successful year in 23-24. In 23-24, that was the first year since 2017-18, in 6 years, that OUSD had made it through a whole school year without losing any school days to either a pandemic or to strikes. And so because of that, and because of that stability and the work we did, all of our numbers and all of our metrics were heading up. We were on the right track. And so at the beginning of this school year of 24-25 in August, the school board then took a series of actions. One of the things we did was we approved our 3 R's restructuring plan, which called for a year-long community conversation. And then at the end of the year in June, we were supposed to vote on recommendations for restructuring the district and for re-envisioning our district's footprint. The other thing we did in August was we extended our successful superintendent's contract for 3 more years. Now we fast forward to now in June at the end of this school year, and we have amazing news going on right now. We are leaving state receivership, finally, after 22 years. Thank you. I never thought this would happen, which is really a gold seal on the work that we've done over the last 3 years to get here. And we're leaving receivership a year earlier than we even thought we could. But nobody's celebrating and nobody's even talking about it. Because what's happened over the last 3 months is this current school board majority, led by our board president and vice president, have forced out our superintendent, Dr. Kyla Johnson-Trammell, 1 year into her 3-year contract, have not engaged in any community conversations, and have now not taken any votes on recommendations for restructuring and envisioning our district going forward. And on top of that, not only have they forced out our superintendent, but now tomorrow they will be approving an employment contract with a new interim superintendent who, instead of picking the second person in charge in our district, who has been an interim superintendent, the board went outside of the senior leadership team to pick somebody who most recently has been a substitute principal. And so in a matter of 6 months, we have gone from on the right track with plans for re-envisioning and restructuring our district in place, with a superintendent to lead us there, to now all of that being thrown out. somebody being hired who is not ready to continue this work. And we don't even have a work plan going forward into next school year. And so where we were making historic progress, we are now facing what I see as the biggest crisis OUSD has faced in my lifetime, with no district leadership. What leadership is left, because half of our senior leadership team is now going out the door on June 30th. With what leadership is left has been disrespected by this school board. And their new leader has been selected from outside of them, who doesn't even know about the work that's been going on. And here we are. And the other thing that will be happening on June 30th is our teachers union contract expires. And so it sure looks like there has been a plan and collusion between OEA's leadership and our school board majority to drive out our superintendent and senior leadership. And now also tomorrow, the board will be most likely approving a budget for next year. And that budget does not contain money to enable us to negotiate raises with our unions whose contracts are expiring. And so for a union to say a school board is with them and it's their directors and they're working together, obviously, then why isn't there money put aside in this budget to negotiate a raise?
Right.
And some of these school board directors also have a demonstrated conflict of interest when it comes to the teachers union. One is a regional director in the California Teachers Association. Another one whose husband is a teacher at Fremont High School, recently in closed session, voted on a raise just for teachers at Fremont High School, Castlemont, and McClymonds. And not only did she not recuse herself from that vote, she made the motion, and in the end, in a 4-3 vote, was the deciding vote in that being approved. And so we have a number of things that have been spinning out of control. Our school board has been approving resolutions against the legal advice of our general counsel. They've now purged the leadership that's in the district, and there is no plan for what we do next. And all of this has happened in a matter of months, because this school board was sworn in the first week in January, and that's when this board leadership was elected. So that's the overarching view. And I think just the last thing before I go into any of the details of the particular is this has all been caused by this current school board, this school board majority led by the current school board leadership. And it takes 4 votes on our school board for things to happen. And that is what this majority has been. They have decided to cause and create this chaos and this crisis. And the only solution we have as a community is to change the school board. And I'm really worried because the next election is still a long ways away. We will not have a new school board sworn in until 18 months from now. And so I am hopeful that as the community realizes more and more what's going on, the community will push back and hold their elected representatives accountable. And like we've done in the past, if necessary, we can force school board directors out. And I don't even mean by a recall campaign. I mean, if we as a community pressure school board directors, we will force them to resign. If we as a community demand accountability for illegal votes and conflicts of interest, they will be forced to resign. And now, as I've been trying to sound the alarm for the last few months, with what I see happening, I don't have anything else to lose, really. You know, it is my responsibility as a lifelong Oakland resident and as the elected director for District 4 to represent my constituents. And that means doing everything I can to protect the district and try to figure out a way for us to move forward so we can get to the point that we were so close to getting to.
So basically, you are putting pointing finger at Jennifer Broussard, the president of the board of the Oakland School District. Or are you? How's your relationship with her?
Um, well, it doesn't really matter what my personal relationship is with
I
people,
don't mean personal.
but
I don't mean personal. I
so
mean, how
so
do you work? How you guys work together, right? Yeah.
none of the school board majority work with me. That's part of the problem. And just like they didn't work with Dr. Johnson Trammell, and that's why they forced her out the way that they did. When I mentioned that there was a contract extension approved for our superintendent in August,
Mm-hmm.
that vote was 5-1 with one abstention. So during that vote, President Brohard voted for Kyla's contract extension for 3 years, gave a glowing speech about how much she respected her work. So why 6 months later did she help lead the effort to force her out of here?
Yeah. Why? What's
And
your speculation?
and then lie about it to the community.
Yeah. What's your
Well, I
speculation?
know. Well, I don't have to speculate. I can tell you what I saw in closed session.
Okay.
And this came out of the blue. So at the March 26th school board meeting in closed session, in an out of order way, Vice President Batchelor said, I'd like us to consider different options for superintendent for the 25-26 school year.
Huh.
President Brohard and Director Williams joined in with her and said, yeah, I'd like to consider that. As I was close to losing my mind, there was a couple of things that went back and forth. And then Superintendent Johnson Trammell said to them explicitly, if you do that, that will violate my contract.
Right.
You'll have to find another superintendent for July 1st, and my lawyer will be in touch to negotiate a payout.
Yeah.
President Brohard's response was, let's call a vote.
Not let's handle this back channel. Wow.
And
wow.
After closed session ended, Superintendent Johnson Trammell left that meeting before open session and has not been seen at a school board meeting since. A week later, Johnson Trammell's lawyer.
Do you blame her?
No, I agreed with it.
Yeah.
I wish I could have made the same choice after I sat through that.
Yeah.
A week later, Superintendent Johnson Trammell, lawyer, sent a settlement proposal to the board. The board had a closed session meeting the following week, and the board majority voted to make a counter proposal and begin the search for an interim superintendent. A week after that, the board voted to accept this separation agreement and begin the search for an internal candidate for interim superintendent. And it literally dropped out of the blue. Wow. Nothing was reported out. It wasn't properly agendized. And basically, our Superintendent Johnson Trammell, was so fed up with the treatment and finally stood her ground to these people who have been rude, disrespectful, and worse. And their response was one of the craziest things I've ever seen when she informed them that it would violate her contract. And they basically sat there, gave her the middle finger and said, fine, let's vote. And the vote at that first time was 3-3 with one abstention. Then these directors spent the next 2 weeks making sure that one abstention turned into the fourth vote. So by a 4-3 vote in closed session, out of the blue, 1 year in, not even a year into a 3-year contract extension, and no reporting out, no plan in place for how to move forward. And that was how our superintendent of 8 years, who led us out of the wilderness, who's a home girl from here,
right,
whose mom was an educator in the district, and who was a lifer in herself, who started off as a student teacher and worked her way up to superintendent, That's the way we repay her for leading us out of receivership.
Wow. So yes, we went from basically 4 years ago, uh, and change. You came in,
Mhm,
everything was headed in a positive direction. Mike, easy question. Well, maybe not so easy.
mhm.
Where did it all go wrong? What started this particular board and its wacko behavior?
The individuals who have been elected to the board. And so, um, like I serve on a school board now where I'm the only Oakland native, the only OUSD graduate uh, on the board. Most of our directors have the first time they attended a school board meeting was when they were sitting on the dais as a director.
Which means they don't know Oakland.
They don't know Oakland, they don't know OUSD, they don't know the recent politics of
Oh,
certain issues.
um, that's my alarm. Hold on a second.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, never mind. It was killed.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay.
Uh,
So there is a um, complete disconnect to that. So really, what happened when I was elected for the first time in 2020? Um, there, we had built up a coalition to really push back against the policy that we were caught in of school closures, financial crisis, a proliferation of charter schools, and really a death spiral. We spent years building up to that. And really, when I won in 2020, the other directors who won all adapted my platform, whether they were really a part of our struggle or not. And then there's been this effort by certain people to really use fake virtue signals and claim certain issues. And for me, I've always been about town business, and I really believe in by any means necessary. And so I've always, my goal has always been to figure out a way to move some of these big issues forward, to get to a point where we can be a sustainable and then hopefully thriving district. And I know that I received a world-class elementary school education, and it set me and my brother up for our futures. And so that's what I've done. It was about reducing charter school proliferation, ending the financial mismanagement, ending the cycle of school closures and how it was done. And we've been able to achieve those. It's I mean, I'm gonna write a book about it one day, but when I look back on it now, all of those key pieces of legislation, I wrote and passed all of those key pieces of legislation. You know, I co-authored the legislation 4 years ago to enable us to pay off the state loan early to leave receivership.
yep.
I authored the resolution for testing protocols during the pandemic. I authored the resolution to repeal the school closures. I authored the 3 Rs, the restructuring plan, as a framework for how to move forward. And unfortunately, we've had individuals come to the school board that have really been about, in my opinion, their own agendas. And instead of building off of the success that we've had, figuring out a lane to do whatever they wanted, they've set about really attacking the district and really pursuing. Um, I don't think my colleagues on the school board, most of them would be hard pressed to tell you why they're on the school board, present any sort of real vision other than nice talking points that sound good to people. And there's not a level of seriousness. Uh, you know, we have Director Williams from District 3 has bragged a number of times while he's been on the dais about how he doesn't read anything.
Hmm. Let's put pictures to these faces, folks. Here they are, and let's scroll down so you can meet the board.
Mhm.
And we've got Van Cedric Williams, who Mike just referred to on the right. Uh, Describe the board in terms of level of blame for where we are. Are they all equal, one more than the other? It sounds like Jennifer, as president, is the
Well,
ringleader, but
so
straighten it out.
there's I go by votes.
Sure.
So most of the votes have been 4-3. And so that started in January, when by a 4-3 vote, Jennifer Brohard was elected school board president, and Valerie Batchelor was elected school board vice president. That 4-3 vote contained those two, plus Director Van Cedric Williams and Director Rachel Latta. That is the same 4-3 vote that forced the superintendent out. That's the same 4-3 vote. A whole nother thing I didn't even mention, they had alternative budget solutions that they approved randomly, which they were advised not to, which was against the legal advice. They passed them after we had done our budget adjustment process. And once the community found out 2 months later what their spending caps would actually do, including devastating after-school programs, they were forced to vote to repeal their budget solutions. And you know who wrote and introduced the repeal resolution, of course, was me. Because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So that was another one that was a 4-3 vote. And so it is those 4 directors who have formed a school board majority that have taken all of these actions. I would say they're all 4 are equally to blame, but in the end, it is the school board president who has certain responsibilities and authority, including creating the school board agenda.
Mike, go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, so in the overarching sense, the responsibility falls directly on the board leadership, the board president, Jennifer Brohard, and the vice president, Valerie Batchelor. But it's really all 4 of those directors in the majority, in my mind, share equal responsibility, because in the end, it doesn't matter what people say or what they put out. What matters is people's voting record.
So have you tried to, or had a chance, or has she contacted you, the president, Jennifer Brohard, to, try to mend fences or get on the same page, anything like that?
No.
Wow.
So one day, or maybe in my book, I have an amazing collection of text messages and emails. And I always keep receipts. But some of the story is after the November elections, when it was clear who was going to be on the school board, I reached out to Director Brohard, somebody who has been extremely disrespectful to me over the years.
Wow.
Including crashing the press conference I had as board president during the 23 strike, along with Van Cedric Williams and Valerie Batchelor. The 3 of them crashed the official press conference, stood on the side, and when I started to speak, stood up, turned their backs, and chanted "liar." Or the fact that during that same strike in 23, Jennifer Brohard's daughter, who is an OEA teacher and former OEA bargaining team member, showed up at my family house to dance the Macarena. So one of the things that I did was, after the elections in December, I reached out to Jennifer Brohard and suggested we have a meeting. And she sat down with me. And at that point, I was the only school board director who has any experience in board leadership. I was the board president, and then the following year I was the board vice president.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you, are you referring to, I may have that press conference, I believe. I'm about to show you this real quick. You can tell me if I got it right, Jack, or if I got it wrong, Jack. But make sure here. Stop screen. Sorry, wrong screen to stop. I'm not stopping you. I'm stopping the other thing that we were saving. And here it is. This was in the pandemic days, right? On Zoom. Is this the one? OUSD press conference?
No.
Okay.
No. It was an in-person press conference,
right? Okay.
That we had at the start of the strike in 23, and and so to fast forward, December, we know what the board's going to be. So being the only school board director with actual experience in leadership and understanding what was going on, I tried again. I reached out to Jennifer Brohart, and we had a sit down. And I said to her, look, I'm the only one who has any experience being in leadership before. What we should do as a board is this year, I'll be president, you be vice president, so you can learn how all of this works. And then the following year, I won't run for board leadership. She looked at me. She said, no, I have different ideas. And really, since that point, there's been a spiral to here we are now.
Oh, by the way, was that May 4th, 2023?
Yes.
But we have that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
And it might not be, somebody took the shot from the side, because as they were standing on the side doing that, all of the cameras were on me giving the speech that I was supposed to give as board president, with the teachers union going on strike. And, yes, it was at that press conference.
Let me see me move over to where you're at here, right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at this point, they are standing off to what would be my left in the video, with a group of people, and they stood up, they turned their backs, and they started saying liar on the side.
Let's hear.
And you probably can't hear them, and that's why there's some other shots of actually them doing it.
Oh, hold on a second. There's a little adjustment that would facilitate this that I need to make to right here. I have a bit of an echo thing here, but for a second. And yeah, let's have at it again.
Towards an agreement that this is where we find ourselves at. Like the superintendent mentioned yesterday, there was direct negotiations between OUSD leadership and OEA leadership. And both County Superintendent Castro and State Superintendent Thurman visited bargaining this week. So when I see messages that claim that OUSD has not been bargaining, has not shown up at the table, that is incorrect. We are in a very difficult situation though now, because negotiations have been broken off. I am proud of the work our bargaining team has done to put this offer on the table. And the only way we can come back or have an agreement is if we come back to the table. I'm sorry to the community that our schools and our lives are being disrupted in this sort of way. I encourage everyone to look at the proposals that have been listed publicly that the district has been making. They're listed on both the district website and OEA's website. And just lastly, when it comes to some of the common good items, these are items that we as a city and as a school district believe in all of these things. I'm proud that I was the co-sponsor of the Reparations for Black Students resolution that the school board passed in 2021. I'm proud to author and help pass a resolution in January that ended school closures in Oakland. Many of these items are things that we've all worked on together, and I would love to continue partnering with teachers and the teachers union to bring those things about. But we have an opportunity for an historic contract here in Oakland. And again, the only way we can settle a contract is if everyone comes back to the table and we're able to continue negotiations. I want to stress for the community especially, we have been negotiating every day. To claim that we have negotiated in bad faith is incorrect. To say that we were not at the table the last 2 days is incorrect. And so we are in a tough situation, and it's dependent on everyone coming to the table so we can negotiate and come to an agreement on a contract that will benefit our teachers and OUSD going forward. Right.
They adjusted that volume there, you know? They did something. Do you hear that, Mike? They muffled it or something.
Yeah. Well, and I have video somebody took on that has exactly what they were doing.
Here's also another place here. Perhaps there.
No, you can't, and actually, you can't hear it on. I'll send you later of what they did. Because it was taped separately by somebody on the side.
Yeah, clearly they muffled the sound, so it's very difficult to hear even just you talking.
Yeah.
It's clear they muffled the sound so that the background noise was all but eliminated, and they put on echo cancellation. So
and the main point really of it is those school board directors crashed that press conference while I was in a very disrespectful way that was out of order to them as school board directors. Then stood up and turned their backs. Then after I was done, along with the superintendent of our press conference, they went outside and held their own press conference. And so this is the behavior that they engaged in all along in their time on the board. And now that they have a majority, it's just not adequate.
Let me now go and reactivate echo cancellation. Otherwise, there. That's better now.
Yes. And so.
Oh, one moment, please. Yeah, the only reason I had to do that was if I had not have turned off echo cancellation, you would not have been able to hear that video. It's a StreamYard quirk. So, right. But as a result, when I went back to Mike, you got the echo. So thank you.
And so it's more first. It's hard to believe that was only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's kind of to me, this behavior's been going on for a while. It's indicative of a lot of things. There, we just really have a school board majority that is just very disrespectful to OUSD, to those of us who have been here. Not only do they lack institutional knowledge, they disrespect people who actually carry that knowledge. And we've gotten to a point now where there's no process, laws aren't being followed, there are no guardrails any place. And it's led very quickly to a point where, when I look back at that video, if you watch the whole press conference, it's not just me up there as the school board president, it's the superintendent standing next to me. It's senior district staff. It's the whole team that was together, that worked together to help move things forward. That's been destroyed. And, and I know that I reached out to Director Brohard. I reached out to all of the directors to try to prevent this from happening. It's why I ran to be board president. A lot of people will tell you, who I talked to, that I predicted a lot of this stuff. I just didn't realize it would be this bad this quickly. And, it's to take it away from just some of the explicit details, it's there have been illegal actions. For example, Director Valerie Batchelor voted for a raise for her husband outside of the CBA, outside of the contract, that just called out that only 140 teachers benefited from in a community property state. And to not even recuse herself from that vote, to me, that means she is receiving personal gain from that vote. And it is not an item that applies to all teachers. To me, that is illegal under the conflict of interest.
District 6 director right there, yes. Highlighted. Yeah.
That is illegal under the conflict of interest laws. And conflict of interest, it's a self-reporting requirement. Nobody is going to step in and prevent a school board director from voting on something because of a conflict of interest. It is our responsibility to recuse ourselves from that. It's actually our responsibility to recuse ourselves if it even might appear that it's a conflict. let alone an explicit conflict like this. Another thing that's
Can you
known
repeat the conflict too, by just for
Mhm.
purpose of me typing it? I'm typing in a caption here. Can you repeat what that was again?
So what there was a vote in closed session when OEA threatened to strike on May 1st. The school board had a special meeting in closed session to basically vote on giving OEA money so they wouldn't strike. And they called it impact bargaining. And the exact terms of what they voted on and approved in a motion made by Valerie Batchelor was to have 11-month contracts for teachers at 3 high schools, Castlemont, McClymonds, and Fremont, and to increase the amount of TSAs, teacher on special assignment, by 20 teachers.
Mhm.
So this was not something that applied to everyone. And of the teachers who received 11-month contracts at those 3 high schools, Valerie Batchelor's husband was this year listed as a teacher at Fremont High School. Now, also, Valerie Batchelor's husband this school year went on leave at the beginning of this school year. If his leave was a year-long sabbatical, that means he got paid. That means he signed a contract. And if it was a year-long sabbatical, the contract would have said, you receive 2/3 payment while you're out on sabbatical of your salary, and you are required then to come back and work 2 years in the district
Mhm.
afterwards.
Mhm.
And if you don't come back and work 2 years in the district, you have to repay what you were paid during your sabbatical. Well, like I said, Valerie Batchelor's husband went on leave at the beginning of this year. And now at tomorrow's school board meeting in the personnel report, he is separating from the district and not working in the district next year. So if his leave this year was a sabbatical, he, and under California law, Valerie Batchelor also,
Right. You'd have.
owe
Yeah.
repayment of over $50,000.
Wow.
So if that leave that's listed in the personnel report and lasted for a school year, while he is listed as a Fremont High teacher and she votes for a raise for him, if this separation is coming after a sabbatical,
Yeah. Now, for those of you
if
watching this
if
who are,
if
if I
the
may,
sep-
Mike, if I
yeah,
may, for those of you kids who are watching this, whenever you're in a situation like that, you're supposed to recuse yourself from the vote. Right, Mike?
yes,
Just
yeah,
don't just point
yeah,
of information.
yeah, it's easy. And
Yeah.
that's why you can't be on the school board and be an OUSD employee at the same time.
Yeah.
I have real questions about a spouse being allowed to do that in a community property state. Um, but like I said, here we are. These things have happened. And again, if the leave that was for 1 year was a sabbatical, then not only is the separation a violation of the agreement, if that is the case, he, and by extension, Director Batchelor, have already received a letter demanding repayment.
Have they? Have they?
So if that was a sabbatical, that would have happened.
Did you
And
confirm? Were you able to confirm whether or not it did, or is it still too early in the picture?
I can I don't raise hypothetical questions if I don't know the answer,
Mm-hmm.
but there's some personnel issues that I shouldn't cross a line violating.
Okay.
So it is public that he is listed as going on leave for a year. And as I said, if it is, and now he is being separated from the district. So if that leave for a year was a sabbatical and he was paid during it, that means he would have already received a letter when he first announced his separation, informing him of the consequences, and would have already received now a second letter demanding repayment of two-thirds salary, which would probably be over $50,000.
Question on the floor by MK. Why does the faction disregard process in a time in which we are so close to leaving state receivership? What about that?
And we're not close to leaving receivership. We're leaving receivership June 30th. Done.
Yeah.
But the problem is they have rejected all of this. They have their own agenda. And I think by looking at their voting record, these conflicts of interest start to be a reason why they've gone this direction. You know, it's just like why have they not done anything publicly? Why am I the only one talking about it?
Yeah.
What is their plan for going forward? Why would they hire an interim superintendent who was outside of our senior leadership team instead of the second in charge?
Yeah, you pointed that out. How did that come about? And did you ever get any explanation regarding your query?
Well, it's, you know, Dr. Denise Sadler was only allowed to apply for interim superintendent because of a technicality. So first, the school board voted to only look at internal candidates and see everyone internally on the senior leadership team who is qualified. They know what's been going on. They've just watched what just happened to Kyla, our superintendent. They've had the same issues with this board. Everyone knows. So none of them turned in an application. I'm a little mad because at the very end, Sandra Aguilera turned in an application. Multiple people had told her, just don't turn in an application. But Denise Sadler, because in the past she had senior leadership experience, qualified, quote unquote, and turned in an application. Those were the only two applications received because we only looked at internal candidates. And nobody internally was going to step into this sort of job because they knew that's not what the school board wanted. Because the original contract we had with Kyla called for Kyla during a transition period to appoint Dr. Sandra Aguilera, her deputy superintendent, and they both run the district together as Kyla steps away from some of the day-to-day activities of a superintendent. So that's what they rejected to begin with. So I think they haven't been forced to explain any place why they forced Kyla out. Then they haven't been able to explain any place why they would choose anyone instead of the second in charge to be an interim superintendent. Then they haven't explained any place why Denise Sadler.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't opened up to looking at external candidates. And then let's go some steps further. Why is the interim superintendent's contract going to be paid on the superintendent's pay scale? Why hasn't this candidate for interim superintendent been vetted at all? Right. Now, when I say vetted, there are certain core things you need to do. Criminal background check, a financial check. This is what you do as standard, no matter who it is. Because
none of these folks were checked for criminal background?
No,
wow.
Nothing. And the superintendent under the Ed Code, even the superintendent, has unilateral authority to negotiate contracts up to almost $100,000.
Wow.
Another thing that they wrote into this interim superintendent contract is the school board will have the authority to approve appointments to the senior leadership team. And the message that everyone has gotten through this is the school board doesn't want anything to do with anyone who's been here and done this work. So come July 1st, half of our senior leadership team is gone. And I know the other half will be out the door at their soonest opportunity, a year at the most.
So, how do we change this state of affairs from your point of view, Mike?
The only way is to change the school board. And
Can
so
we do a recall?
we can do a recall. I think it'll take too long. I think, just like Shanti Gonzalez was forced to quit
Yeah.
7 months before her term was over.
Mhm.
Some of us started putting enough pressure on her where it wasn't fun for her anymore. People forget. I get paid $801 a month to be on the school board, and I have no staff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this isn't this
You work hard, man.
well, yeah, and we need to change that. But it's also not a paid gig. These
Right.
folks don't need to stay in these positions because they need a paycheck or anything. It is up to us as a community. These aren't even paper tigers.
That's
These
right.
are folks with no base of support who we've allowed them to do this. So one of my messages to everyone is we've been failed by everyone out there. Like I'm annoyed at Superintendent Johnson Chamel. She was supposed to stand up and tell the truth more on her way out the door.
Why don't you think she did not? Why do you think she just skipped on it? Was it shock?
Well,
Was it?
she said some things, but it's also her style. She wasn't willing to go out and say the full truth. And in her mind, I think she thought she was still trying to protect the district. In my mind, we're well past that.
Is there
And
anything she might have done that may have produced a blowback that we don't know about that she does that maybe caused her to be, shrieking violet?
no,
'Cause
this
sometimes
is
that's the reason, you know what I mean?
no, she chose not to. And even at her ending press conference, when she was asked a number of times directly by the media, she didn't give the reasons why she is leaving, kind of thing. And so people could read between the lines. She sure didn't disagree with what I've been out there saying. I've talked to her regularly all through this, but I think I would have liked her to have said more on the way out the door. And I'm disappointed in that. The county superintendent and our oversight trustee, which we still have not been willing to step in, largely because we're about to leave receivership.
Have
So
you
they
talked
just,
to anybody from the county of Alameda about what's going on here?
I've talked to everyone.
Among the board of supervisors, I mean.
No, because they don't have a direct responsibility over us in that sort of way.
Well, I understand,
And
but they have,
but
influence.
but here's the problem from the other side. Nobody else has. I haven't heard from any city council director or any city council member while this has been going on over the last 4 months. When word first broke that the superintendent was being forced out, I heard from a staffer in my state senator's office, and I heard from a staffer in Mia Bonta's office, and I haven't heard back from them or anyone else since.
What about the mayor?
Haven't heard from the current mayor, her opponent, or the former mayor. And people have, it's been very disappointing.
Yeah.
And again,
Like they're not interested at all. Normally you'd think that, hey, if it were Ella, when I worked for me, he'd have Tony Cook in a task force, and Nicole would be over chief of staff, and yada yada, right?
there's a lot of reasons, I got worried when I saw one of the co-lead of Barbara Lee's transition team is Keith Brown, who is the former OEA president,
Right.
who really I used to be close with, and he started some of these problems that we're now facing. And coming from the Central Labor Council, they've refused to speak on what's really going on and how these people are destroying us. And Keith Brown is another one. He's a homeboy. He's from here. I had conversations with him when he was OEA president and I was on the school board, partly because he helped me get to the school board. I had conversations with him where I was in tears.
Wow.
Telling him we are in this position to drive the train. That's why we're here. And I refuse to be a passenger and let people do that. And so it all, I get worried when I see the people surrounding Barbara Lee are some of the same people that have been involved with these fake virtue signals that have gone on in our last few election cycles. You know, while I'm telling the truth about everyone, like I'm in District 4, my council member Ramachandran,
Yeah.
when when she first ran for her council seat, the first name she put on her advertisement that she was using knocking on every door was my name. I helped put her on.
That's right.
3 months later, she stopped talking to me. And in our time serving in her time in office, I haven't heard from her once, haven't met with her once. And when she sees me in public, she cuts her eyes so she won't even make eye contact.
What? Mike. Man, oh man.
So, you know, I know.
Hey, Mike, let's have a little digital media fun. Hey, Johnny, I got a mutual friend on. All right. How come you're not talking to my friend? What you got to say there, Mike?
Oh, I don't have anything to say. She knows how to find me. That's a choice that she made. Wow. You know? And I waited until Kat Brooks put out a post about her budget solutions to even open my mouth here about it. So it's okay. I'm from Oakland, so I know when a city council member refuses to even reach out to their school board director, that not only do they not care about what's happening in the schools in the district they represent, they're not really connected to the community.
Wow. Hey, Johnny, reach out because you want to be mayor one day. Maybe next year. I don't know. You're sending out these signals that I think. Do you realize she's got these committees, right? But then she put out this. John and you did do this, and I love you, but you did it. Okay. She put out this vlog that reminded everybody that next year you get to vote for the mayor again. I'm thinking, what's that about? And she just interviewed Barbara, so I'm thinking, wait a minute, are you like buttering her up for slaughter? What are you doing here? You know. Okay, call my buddy, call Mike. You know, yes. Go to Kroger. Go to Krogan's in Montclair, right?
She's seen me at Paulista a number of times. I'm there almost every day.
Hello.
You know, all of this, you know, for a lot of these folks across the board, it doesn't really matter to me. But what it shows me is that they don't really care and they don't take this seriously.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really matter if my council member doesn't talk to me. People reach out to me all the time. And other members of the city council, if they ever have a question of what's going on, they know to reach out to me. And these other things are silly and offensive, and especially from people who have only been in Oakland 5 years as it is.
Yeah.
You know? And it's part of the reason, you know, actually go ahead and turn her off. Go ahead and turn her off. I don't need her.
I'm not turning you off, John, but I'll see.
Okay. But this is one of the differences, you know, being from here, as you know, Zenny, we're used to these being family fights.
Yep, absolutely.
It's fine if we don't get along. Yep. It's fine if we have an understanding of where people stand on certain issues. Yep. And we might move in and out of coalitions depending on what it is. There's also a baseline level of respect where we know that we're all from here. And these outsiders are not a part of the family. They have been disrespectful to our family. Most people see it. And so, you know, there is a big difference between how I present myself and how the city council member representing my district presents herself. I'm Oakland through and through. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people get uncomfortable with how I say or do things, but I'm extremely effective. You know, and then I see other people who aren't. I have the same problem with the people I'm serving with on the school board. I don't think this is wandering. I'm sorry, but there's not enough people who even have a baseline understanding or a baseline level of knowledge to even serve in these seats and in these roles. And if we as a community don't figure out a way to get better people running for spots, and then supporting efforts to raise the level, we're not going to be able to get anywhere. And we've been moving backwards. And the idea that we disregard experience, expertise, professionalism. Yeah, we can all tell a story about how, one individual we got mad at one time because they said a disrespectful comment. But that's not what this is about.
No, no.
Not about at all. And so as I've gone through this, like for me, over the last 3 months, I've actually gained more standing than I've ever had before. There's more people who know about my work or who respect how I go about it than ever by being the one person who's standing up saying these things.
Yep.
But it's frustrating that I'm the only one standing up saying these things. And I don't understand. Like if I was a city council member where I was getting paid $90,000 a year and I had a full staff, I could be able to do so much work and get so much done and serve my constituents and move big vision legislation to get us moving in the right direction.
Right.
But we don't, it's not even that we don't see it happening anywhere. There's not even an expectation anyplace. And so in a big way, to bring it back to the school district, we've now, this board in 3 months has taken out any capacity that we had to be able to develop a plan, adhere to a plan, move things forward. Like we're hiring an interim superintendent where that wasn't even a question. She doesn't know what the work was, and the board has just disregarded all of our commitments. And yes, this budget is still balanced, but next year now, with no work being done on restructuring and all of this stuff that's happened, it will be impossible for us to pass a balanced budget a year from now.
Wow.
Because we're going to be looking at
impossible.
Well, right now, probably we're looking at, and I didn't even check the latest numbers. I would just estimate off the top of my head. We're looking at an over $100 million hole. And that's before any consideration of negotiating any raises, which there's no money for. And that's out of a roughly less than $800 million budget. And so we're looking at a 15 to 20% hole probably right now in the budget.
15 to 20%.
I would just estimate off the top of my head easily. I mean, this year we're carrying $40 million in one-time dollars. So we already know we have to do something about that next year. And then the plan all along as we stabilized our district finances and had these bridges and also used COVID dollars to help bridge some of this, there was always this need to do restructuring work also, so the district looks different and is sustainable. Throwing out that work and driving out the people who were engaged in that work, so there's nobody even left to pick up the baton from. And so, it's all of these things, but it happens up top. And in the end, the school board has two responsibilities.
Before you, MK has a question. What happens when the district can't balance the budget?
Well, that's not really how it happens. And so we have a statutory requirement to pass a budget by June 30th. Now, we can't pass a budget that we can't afford to pay for it. So so what happened when we were first taken over by the state and went into receivership in 2003 is there was a $30 million hole discovered in the budget. The board at that time was given the option of either making $30 million in cuts right there immediately or accept a loan from the state to cover it. These days, the state's not really doing loans anymore. And so what would happen in a real sense is if all of a sudden our finances look like we're not going to be able to meet payroll or we're tanking, then just like we saw in San Francisco a year ago, we will be taken over by the county and the state. They'll have to take us over if we
Wow.
can't make our receipts. And that's what happened at in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco had an awful
So
school
we'll be
board,
back to where we started from in a sense.
worse than where we started. So in San Francisco, they had a bad school board making bad decisions, hired the wrong superintendent, and in 6 months tanked their budget. Now, with all of this happening here, we are now in a worse spot than we were in 2003 because this is self-inflicted and there's no staff left to help develop a plan for how we move out of this crisis because the board has rejected all of that. And so, you know, to be in a situation where the best case scenario is we leave receivership June 30th and we're taken over July 1st again anew, that's looking like the best case scenario for us as a district, because what we can't have happen is this school board continuing to be in charge, making these decisions, driving us over the cliff.
This is troublesome to say the least.
You know, and the other reason why I need really more people to look in it and get involved, and my job really is to
share this video, by the way.
And share as much of the information as possible. It's why I appreciate the Oakland NAACP Families in Action and Latino Education Network for having a press conference today. Is we need as many people getting involved and putting eyes on this as possible. You know, so when I first broke the news of what was happening in closed session, actually the Northern California ACLU wrote an email to the board advising us that we had violated the Brown Act and we needed to change our ways. We've received other messages like that, but I need more people to press these things. It is nobody is going to step in and stop this. Nobody is going to save us. We need people to get involved. I need lawyers to look at this with multiple lenses. It is a good time for people who understand budgets and numbers to take a look again. I know that this budget is okay because Lisa Grant Dawson did it, but there's all of these other things happening. This is a time where we need everyone's engagement. You know, our parents and our students. You know, a month ago at a school board meeting, our student directors called board leadership liars to their faces. I'd never seen that before. And they have been disrespected directly a number of times. But our students still haven't yet organized themselves to start coming out to school board meetings and pressuring, like our students were great at in the past.
Right.
You know, if in a city like Oakland, if 1% showed up and got engaged, it would be an overwhelming force. And that's where hopefully people can really, you know, look at, and even I'm going to keep trying to push and trying to figure out a way. But even for me pushing, it makes it that much easier if there's more public displays of pushing back, of demanding something different. You know, this is what continues to go on. And like people heard about the directors defunding after school programs. And I had to, you know, author a solution to that and really force the school board to vote for it. I was really hopeful that that would be the final straw to get people to continue to push back.
Right.
I was hopeful that as people learned about what was happening to our superintendent, that people would continue to push back. We had a good turnout at a meeting, and then people fall back. And so, you know, before I was on the school board, I actually spent close to 10 years organizing around these issues in Oakland. And I was lucky where I was really gamed up by some amazing people on how to do organizing. We're really missing that right now. And so if anyone is ever going to send an email, leave an e-comment, or attend a school board meeting or speak at a school board meeting, tomorrow would be a great meeting to do that at. It is okay that you don't know every detail of things.
Right.
I think just what some of the stuff I'm saying, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, that should be a big enough issue to get more people speaking.
Yes.
And the other thing that I just have heard from a lot of people is this kind of whataboutism we have. And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
we have this crisis, but well, what about
We have
2 years
other
ago
problems.
when this happened? Or it's just, we need to get involved. I've proven to myself that one person can make a difference. I really feel like I've done as much as I can now, and I'm going to continue putting it out there. Yes, of course, there is a way that we can always fix things, but the longer it takes, the harder it's going to be. And what I used to always literally preach before I was on the school board, and really it's the reason why I ran for school board, is the buck always stops at the school board. So the
Hey,
school.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Victor Fuentes, welcome, Victor. Victor asks, how can the city of Oakland generate capital through taxes to help balance the Oakland Unified School District's balance?
Well, we have balanced our budget, and that's not where the issue lies. And the voters of Alameda County and of Oakland have been very generous to the Oakland School District. We are the highest taxed city in Alameda County,
Mhm.
and our district receives more funds than almost anyone because of that support.
That's right.
Our facilities bonds have been maxed and will continue to be maxed. So we have two problems in a larger sense. One, structurally, California does not fund its schools properly. And so per pupil spending went up during the pandemic. We'll see where it kind of winds up landing. We need more of those dollars. Then there's other things like the state doesn't fund facilities at all. And so, and as a local school district, it's impossible for us to fund our facility needs along with providing an education.
Well, actually, there has been a move to allow redevelopment funds to be used for that. I don't know if that's the way it's going to go, but
it's still just a huge problem that's indicative of our aging infrastructure in California.
right.
There's other issues like the school district. We can't address the affordability crisis or the housing crisis in Oakland. We could never afford to pay our employees enough to live in the neighborhoods where they work. And the only way there could be a solution, in my mind, for those things would be a statewide solution or even a federal solution. So something like school employees not paying state taxes, that could be something that's workable.
Mhm.
Asking the school district to subsidize all of their employees by $3,000 extra dollars becomes very untenable in a financial sense. But then within that, we have ended the financial mismanagement in the district, and we've stabilized the finances. But the one missing piece that we were supposed to be doing this year into next year is this larger re-envisioning and restructuring.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons why OUSD doesn't make sense is because we were taken over by the state for 22 years, and they broke and disrupted everything. So the reason OUSD looks like this has nothing to do with what we as a community wanted. That was the process that we need to have now. That will include number of schools, how resources are distributed, how we decide to best use our scarce resources to provide the best outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're supposed to be doing right now. And this board has literally stop this process 1 year away from the real finish line. So we're leaving receivership, but there was this window we created where leaving receivership was part of it, but we need to have this community envisioning process
Right.
to set us up now for full local control, which
Almost
we
like
haven't
Oakland sharing the
experienced.
vision in 91.
Well, and to go back that far, we haven't experienced this opportunity in our school district in over a generation.
Ah,
And so it's all of those things kind of together.
yeah.
And we've been able to pull off magic. You know, over the last 2 years, we ended the pattern of school closures. We passed balanced budgets that now led us out of receivership. And we negotiated almost $100 million in raises with our labor unions
Hmm.
at the same time.
Wow.
And that is the historic progress
Bravo.
that we were able to make that's now been thrown out the window over the last
Right.
6 months.
Right.
And rejected in a serious way, and again with no plan to go forward. So let me just turn the corner just a little bit. The school board's two main responsibilities are hiring or firing the superintendent, and fiduciary responsibility, controlling the money. The two biggest failures over the last 6 months have been in those two areas specifically.
Thank you. Okay. I was going to ask that. Got it.
And so going forward, like when we get to August, when school reopens, because the school board doesn't meet in July, I don't know who's going to make the agenda for the first school board meeting in August or who's going to call the meeting. That's usually done between the board president in conjunction with the superintendent.
Huh.
These people don't even know what to do. And they've been able to do it this year because it was all set in place for them at the start of the year.
But
Not
this
only
from
is
the president is supposed to
Mhm.
set the tone,
Mhm.
right?
Not only is the superintendent gone, but both chiefs of staff are gone as well.
Wow.
So there's nobody, even if somebody wanted to, there's nobody to help game up an interim superintendent on even what the procedures are. So like in July, when we have vacancies for superintendents in other places, I don't know who's going to make the hiring and who's going to do that. Who's going to fill all these vacancies? We
Right.
have half a senior leadership team, and now the board thinks they're in charge of appointing people, but the board won't meet again until August. What is the plan for reopening schools in August? Has anyone set that? What is that even going to look like? And this is before we talk about, you know, one of the other things the superintendent has
Talk
done.
about the lack of professionalism.
One of the other things the
Wow.
superintendent has done, Dr. Kyla Johnson-Trammell, is
Yeah.
she holds all the relationships with our community partners,
How?
including probably over $10 million a year just through her in philanthropy. And so who is going to go meet with our
And you
community?
need a multicultural effort there. So
Well, who's going to go meet with Salesforce to make sure they're going to follow through with what they promised to Kyla and her chiefs of staff?
right.
We've already received a letter from Eat, Learn, Play about their concerns, and they've pledged $17 million a year to us.
Wow.
There's been no conversation about.
Can you, for those who aren't aware of the letter, I haven't seen the Eat, Learn, Play letter. Can you share that real quick, and we'll, out of respect for your time, you know, wind up there. But,
So when news first broke about the superintendent Johnson-Trammell being forced out, we received a number of emails from a number of individuals and groups. Everything, the way I've been saying it is everything from Regina Jackson and Selena Wilson from the East Oakland Youth Development Center,
right,
to the CEO of Eat, Learn, Play, which is the Curry's Foundation that has grown to be our biggest partners in OUSD.
Wow.
And so, but we received hundreds of emails from individuals or for groups about their concerns about what was happening, the instability in leadership, who was going to be in charge, who was going to hold those relationships. Then after that, we had the debacle with the threat to our after-school programs, where all of our providers who provide after-school programs were threatened with their funds being cut by up to 80%. again, destroying these relationships. And there's not only has there been no work to address it, there is literally nobody left in-house come July 1st who has any relationship with any of these people or groups. There's nobody left to say, hey, you need to go reach out to those people. Hey, what about this? It's not even a part of the plan or the concerns.
Right. Wow.
It's
Mike?
hard for me to fully explain to everyone how scary and how bad this is. I'm very frustrated. My family has reassured me that I've done everything that I can, but this
Yes.
idea of it still feels like to me that I'm letting it happen, and it's very, very disturbing. And I am very convinced, I'm proud of the reputation that I've grown to have. A lot of people have known me to be the canary in the coal mine for over a decade when it comes to OUSD. Now I have the added benefit of I sit inside every room. There is nothing that I don't know. And I'm trying to tell everyone as directly as I can that I need everyone's help. And if we don't do anything, we are in real trouble.
Absolutely. I couldn't. Mike?
Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Folks, I invite anyone else to come on and join Mike and myself, or on yourself, you want to just say what you want to say. But I thank Mike. I'm honored, Mike, that you thought to text me and ask me if you wanted to do this. It only took me, what, a second? And to have you on, and because
And I'm sure, kind of as we get to July, because we're in such uncharted territory, there is no playbook for this. Eventually, some of us will start to kind of figure out where things stand, and then it's going to be very important again that hopefully we start getting the word out and people get involved in some sort of way. And it's hard for me to fully. I just really want to emphasize this point that we were on such an amazing path at the beginning of this school year. This dropped out of the blue through secret meetings and closed session by this board who has been engaging in illegal activity. And now we are in an extreme crisis. And so with everything, it's up to us to save us. And Zenny knows how to get in touch with me. A lot of the other folks watching do too. Please just find a way to get involved, get engaged. And, I feel like the city's a little overwhelming for me, but I guarantee everyone, if we get people involved, we can get right back on track.
And folks, if you want to see this quickly, you're saying, hey, where are you on YouTube? It's Zenny62 YouTube. But also, if you want to see this even, excuse me, let me make sure I get these questions out. Victor asks, why is there so many vacancies at the top of the Oakland Unified School District's board? Are there?
No, we don't have vacancies on our board.
Right.
But we have vacancies now developing in the senior leadership team, which is the staff who supports the superintendent, who is staff, not an elected position. And so our next school board elections are coming up in 26, just like the city council. It'll be the even districts, 2, 4, and 6. But what we do have is we've had kind of a revolving door, and this now wave of elected officials and school board directors is extremely inexperienced and did not come in with even a base level of understanding even before they got to the board.
So the beat goes on, basically.
Yes, the beat goes on, and again, it's up to us. The flip side of all of this is these people are really weak, and we are the 45th biggest city in the country.
Yep.
And all it takes, I did a lot of this grinding on my own when it came down to it. If there are a couple of dozen of determined people, that could be a decisive factor very easily. It doesn't even take that many. And so please, especially if you live in District 1 with Director Lotta, District 2 with Director Brohard, District 3 with Director Williams, or Director 6 with Director Brohard, they need to hear from their constituents that you don't want them to do this. And that's a first step. I'd recommend it with the city council as well. If we don't speak up and take advantage of some of the low-hanging fruit, it then becomes our fault that we let this happen. And so I'm not quite to that point yet, but I need everyone to empower themselves. So we can't wait for somebody else to do it. If you think something needs to be done, instead of even asking what other people are doing. And so like Director Barry in District 5 has been with me on most votes. But what would really be helpful is an email to Director Barry asking her that. So she can feel.
What's her email? Write it down here.
So all of our school board directors' emails are first name dot last name at OUSD.org. Yep. So hers would be patrice.barry at OUSD.org.
Like this, folks, so you don't have to. So you can just simply paste.
Or that email me on that page will bring you there. But this is what, if we get in the culture of, like, I get asked all the time why other directors are doing what they're doing or thinking that. We need to get into the culture of asking them directly. And it helps put them on notice. For ones that we're supportive of, it helps give them support so they can feel that that's where the community's interested. But right now, these school board directors think that they can get away with this because they haven't felt that real pressure. And yeah.
And well said. Not only that, one moment, a little bit of an announcement to make here. If I can unlock this appropriately, it is now unlocked, and I make sure that it is in the proper area. Save that, and that is there. And so we got to make sure that I will tag it later, but I got to take it off that and go it into education. Whoops, there it is. Okay, and Mike, it is there. So therefore, that means this. It means that the what you're about to see is, well, live. And there is but one last duty to king and country I must do with respect to actually two things. First of all, show you that voila, or is it voila? Voila, it is up right here. And then the other voila is I just right about now, texted it to her. So she's got it. Okay. Oh, she'll see it.
I wasn't expecting on using her name today too. I got enough other people to deal with right now.
Hey, we work fast around here.
Well, and I do want to appreciate, to say not just I appreciate you having me on today and just being available like this. I do really appreciate all the people who have reached out to me. My family will tell you my phone has really been going nonstop for 3 months. There's been a really good response where people are starting to engage around the information and ask questions. The local media has put me on, and I really appreciate that. And so it's been a good thing. Now we just need to get everyone to the point where we're making these direct demands, and really, it is ironic and it highlights everything. My plan that Kyla Johnson Trammell, the superintendent, and I had, our plan for this year was everything culminating this month in leaving receivership. And then we were going to have these new strategic visions for going forward, ready at the time we were finally regaining full local control. And it all made so much sense, and we were so close. That is what we can still go back to. And that is where we really need folks to be engaged and believe that we can have a world-class public education system in Oakland. We can do things not just as well as everyone else, but better than everyone else. And we're close, but this can only go two different ways now. Either we're going to get to that promised land over the next year, or we are going to be thrown into an abyss. And it's sad that it's come down to this much of a inflection point, but that's really where it is. And I know I've proven to myself, I've seen it happen, that the community does have the power if only we will flex it and exercise it in the right kind of way.
And folks, again, just go to zenireport.com and click on Mike's name, and it'll take you right to the video. Hey, Mike, stick around in the background. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. And please, if you haven't done so before, subscribe to Zenny62 Media on YouTube and bookmark oaklandnewsonline.com and zenireport.com, and also join our YouTube membership club. It's growing, and it's going to be even more exciting than it already is. Mike, stick around in the background. Folks, that ends this stream.